Through the front window of the laundromat, an hour before dawn, I watched a man stand in the empty parking lot wearing my clothes, and every stitch on him was dripping. I knew the flannel and the tan jacket and the boots, because the originals were folded in a basket back at my apartment, clean and dry. It took 11 weeks to earn that sight, and I want to set it down in order, because order is the only thing I got to keep. I answer overnight support calls for a software company 3 time zones away, from a rented room in a town that mostly closes by 9. My shift ends at 2 in the morning, a useless hour for everything except laundry. The wash barrel sits on State Route 9, in a strip mall gone half plywood, between a dead payday loan office and a vacuum repair shop I have never once seen open. The laundromat stays lit all night with nobody minding it, a row of washers down one wall and 8 dryers stacked along the back. 7 of those dryers behave like machines. Dryer 5 was running the first night I walked in, and no one was there to run it. It was running the second night and the 9th and the 30th. Same load near as I could tell, dark heavy cloth going over and over behind the little round window. Dry laundry tumbles light, it lifts and floats and comes down rustling. What was in 5 came down slapping. That wet, dragging slap went on hour after hour, in a machine that should have baked its load stiff. Stand close in the air by its door smelled like a riverbank in August, silt and cut weeds and something sweeter underneath, going soft. A card was taped above its coin slot, gone the color of weak tea, its block letters pressed hard enough to tear the paper. It said the machine does not dry, and then, underlined twice, do not load it and do not open it. I want to be fair to the person I was that month, because strange machines in dying malls are usually just strange machines. So I sorted my whites 20 feet away and let it keep its corner. The truth is I even liked the place. After 10 hours of angry phone calls, a warm, bright room full of clean soap smell and machine hum is close enough to kindness. The owner was a phone number on a laminated sheet by the door, and it went to a voicemail box that had been full since before I moved to town. The day crowd knew a little more than I did, but only a little. A retired teacher who folds towels there on Tuesdays told me 5 had been running since the year the river came up over the road. She said the water stood 4 feet deep that spring, and when the wash barrel opened back up, the machine was already going. Nobody ever got it to stop, she said, and after a while nobody cared to be the one who tried. Then she said the light over the back row burns out twice as fast as the others, and went back to her towels like the subject was folded too. I noticed more on my own after that, the way you do once something has your attention. The drum in 5 turns a beat slower than the drums beside it, like a man staying out of step on purpose. Its round window sweats on the inside, and the water runs down into somewhere I could always hear and never see. And on nights when the plaza was dead quiet, what came through that door was less like tumbling and more like wading. The night I broke the rule, I had been on calls for 10 hours and came in stupid with exhaustion. 3 of the good dryers wore taped-up trash bags over their doors, and a 4th was wrestling somebody's comforter. I had 2 baskets of wet clothes, 1 cycle left on my card, and about enough cents left to work a zipper. And for the first time since I had known the place, dryer 5 stood still and open and empty. The drum was dry, the river smell was gone, and the round window hung wide like a door somebody was holding for me. I have replayed the next minute 100 times, hunting for the part of me that knew better. I loaded both baskets in, and before I had dug out a quarter, the drum began to turn on its own. I was asleep on the folding bench before it finished its first slow revolution. My phone alarm woke me at 4, and the machine had stopped, and my clothes were dry. Not just dry, perfect, warm all the way through, the best any load of mine has ever come out anywhere. I remember standing in that white buzzing room, feeling pleased with myself. Then I found the card face down on the floor by my boot, its tape curled up like a dead leaf. Taping it back felt like latching a gate on an empty field, but I did it and went home and slept through the gray day. 2 nights later, 5 was running again, and the old dark load was back behind the glass, turning its slow beat behind the others. I was nearly relieved, the way you are when something you broke turns out to still work. Then a sock came around against the window and clung to the wet glass, and it was mine. Gray wool with a red heel, from the pair my sister mails me every Christmas from a company she likes in Vermont. I watched it peel away into the dark and told myself half the state owns that sock. At home I turned my drawer out onto the bed, and I owned 4 pairs and all 8 socks were there. I want to be careful about the order of what came next, because the order is the point. On Monday I wore my gray shirt with the bleach spot on the hem, and by Wednesday that shirt was in dryer 5, plastered to the glass, soaked dark. The spot sat exactly where mine sits, low on the left, 3 fingers up from the seam. The original was on my bathroom floor that same night, and I stood over it a long while before I could make my hand pick it up. The Thursday after it was my green flannel, the one gone thin at the elbows, riding the top of the load like it had been laid in last. Whatever that machine was turning had stopped being a stranger's laundry, one piece at a time. It was dressing. 2 nights on, something in the drum was thudding, a slow, heavy leather thud, and I did not go near enough to the glass to confirm what I already knew. I did what a sane person does at the edge of a thing like that, which is stop going. There is a laundromat in the next town, 19 minutes up the route, bolted to a gas station with good coffee. For 2 weeks I drove my baskets past the plaza and let the wash barrel shrink to a lit box in my mirror. The trouble with 2 weeks is that it is exactly long enough to start feeling foolish. It was one machine in a dying mall, I told myself, and the gas station place charged double and folded nothing. So I went back on a Sunday, an hour before dawn, and had the place to myself, and 5 was turning its slow beat in the corner. I kept my eyes off it mostly. My towels went into dryer too, and I took the bench with my back to the wall and read my phone. Out through the front glass the plaza was its usual self, my car, the dead neon, one streetlight blinking whenever it felt the urge. At some point the sound of the room thinned. It took me a moment to place it, and then I did. Dryer 5 had stopped. For the first time in 11 weeks, the corner machine hung open, and its drum was empty, and its glass was dry. The river was not in the machine anymore, because the river was everywhere else in the room. I looked up at the front window, and the parking lot had somebody in it. He stood under the streetlight beside my car, on asphalt that had been bare the last time the light blinked. My green flannel thin at the elbows. My gray shirt under it, and I did not need to see the hem to know where the spot sat. My tan jacket, my winter boots, all of it fitting the way my clothes fit me, and all of it running with water, as if he had waded up out of a river to stand in the dry night. The streetlight went through its blink, and he held still for it, the way anyone would, and that was the worst part of him. He was not looking at me, he was looking past me, into the corner where the machine stood open and empty and waiting. Water threaded off his cuffs, and the stain beneath him widened until it touched the shadow under my car. I did not move, and neither did he, and dryer 2 kept rolling my towels over like the world was still ordinary. Then he turned in no hurry at all and walked out of the light toward the back of the plaza, where a drainage cut runs down through scrub to the river. The dark took the jacket last. I left the towels. I drove home with the windows down in 40-degree air because the car smelled like silt, and did not check the mirror until the plaza was 2 stoplights behind me. The originals were waiting in my apartment, folded in the basket, looking like the most ordinary things I owned. I did not put any of them on again. The next afternoon, in full daylight with the day crowd folding sheets, I set that basket on the bench under the owner's laminated number. It felt less like giving something away than like paying something back, and by Friday the basket was gone, and nobody I asked had touched it. The wash barrel lost its lease at the end of winter, and by March there was brown paper taped over all that glass. The power company came for the meters, and State Route 9 got one more dark building to not look at. In June, the retired teacher's nephew stood at that papered door and called me, and held his phone to the gap so I could listen. Inside a dead building, with no lights and no meters and no water, something heavy was turning over, a beat behind nothing at all. I dry my clothes on a line in the yard now, in daylight, where I can see them from the kitchen window. They are mine while they hang there, and when the wind fills a sleeve, I stand still at the sink until it empties again.